Blog Talk Radio.
Following ingredients include a look behind the scenes. Cook uncovered until hot. Add grooves to taste.
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl.
The accident was over a year ago. A second woman has been elected president. The 12th planet has been named in the solar system. The last wild polar bear has died. I slept through it all. I was here for my waking. He called it a beginning. He said it was good. I think he may have thought that anything I did was good.
Welcome to Transition Radio, live from Hollywood, Florida, with your host and hostess, Mark Angelo and Jessica Lynn Cummings. Show for trans folks by trans folks, here to let your voice be heard.
Well, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Transition Radio. Thank you for joining us yet again on another night, Friday night, wet, rainy night. And the show must go on, whether it's rain, snow, sleet, or whatever, all good stuff. But we are glad to be here. We had our TV show yesterday, Thursday, our new TV night. It's Thursday nights at 9 p.m. We had a great guest, Jody Rose. And tonight, we have the founder of Loveboldly, an organization that helps empower the LGBT community. But before we bring her on, we want to thank our sponsor,
thebreastformstore.com. They have everything you need for your cross-dressing and transgender needs. Visit their website and tell them Transition Radio.
Heidi Weaver is the founder, executive director of Loveboldly. She's a student at Asbury Theological Seminary seeking seeking her master's degree in marriage and family counseling. Heidi has spent 5 years practicing intentional Christ-like presence in the LGBT community.
Through her leadership of Loveboldly, Heidi aims to empower those who identify as LGBT, Christian, or both, to honor the worth and dignity of the other, sacrifice self, and meet the needs of others, dialogue with one another, and restore relationships of reconciliation with self, others, and God.
She's passionate about empowering and equipping the LGBT community, faith communities, pastors, laypersons to step towards intentional Christ-like engagement with one another while providing safe spaces for LGBT Christians to grow in their faith.
Justin Berenger is the Director of Education at Loveboldly. He recently completed his MD at Asbury Theological Seminary, where he worked for the Ministry for Global Community Formation. He has been a missionary in China and Greece, worked extensively among homeless people in Nashville, and served at mercy and justice organizations like the Dream Center and Sojourners.
Justin currently works as a freelance writer and editor. He is co-editor of the book, A Faith Not Worth Fighting For, addressing commonly asked questions about Christians' nonviolence, and the author of the forthcoming book, No More Excuses, 101 Ways to Love and Serve Others.
Now, please welcome to the show, Heidi Weaver.
Hello, how are you all?
Good, how are you?
Good, it's a joy to be with you all tonight.
Yes, it's great to have you. It's a little wet where we are at. It's thundering. It hasn't stopped raining for the past week, and seriously, we're getting
that is unfortunate. We have bright, sunny skies here in Lexington, Kentucky.
And there you go.
Okay, I know where I'm moving.
Don't you guys have a lot of tornadoes there?
No, actually, not. It's not too bad.
Not too bad. Okay, Kentucky.
Yeah, that's good.
How is it for the LGBT
Come on out.
community? How is it for the LGBT community in Kentucky?
It really varies depending on what part of Kentucky people live in. Of course, in the more rural areas of Kentucky, it's extremely difficult for people within the LGBT community. In certain cities and towns that are a little bit more developed, it's a different experience, I think. For instance, the mayor of Lexington is gay, and Lexington has been known to be a somewhat gay-friendly city, probably because of that, as well as just some of the universities in the area. So it really varies depending. I think the LGBT experience in Kentucky really varies depending on where exactly people are located.
And it's really sad that in this day and age, we are in 2013, that there is not a wider acceptance of people of all kind, of all sexual preference, of all color, of all. It shouldn't have to be the barriers and the judgment that we see today. I'm getting to that. I want you to explain to our listeners what Loveboldly is all about, because I am sure that it is a message of love for everyone and acceptance. So tell our listeners a little bit about what Loveboldly is about.
Well, Loveboldly is really about helping people to bridge that gap that often occurs in conversations revolving around faith and sexual orientation or gender identity. And, we really just seek to empower people to move beyond the differences that they may have and to really hear one another's stories, to understand one another, to befriend each other. And we really try to work against that misunderstanding that you have to always agree with one another in order to be kind and decent and civil with each other. And so we really just try to create these intentional environments where people can befriend and reconcile with one another, even if they may have divisions on what they believe spiritually or what they may think about sexuality in general. We find that there are ways for people to connect, even if they're very, very different from one another, and that's what we really try to create the opportunities for.
And what kind of tools do you use to create that? What methods? How do you get a group of people in the same room to agree about something without wanting to kill each other?
By the way you asked that question, it makes me think you would find that challenging.
Somewhat it can be.
I'm sorry?
I said somewhat it can be.
Yes,
very challenging.
It is. And we just, I don't know what tools, I don't know what we've done right to make it work. I tend to think there's something bigger at work than anything we've done, but one of the things we really focus on is trying to communicate to people in a language that they understand. And so for people for example, in a conservative Christian environment, we can explain things in a way that they can understand and educate about stereotypes and biases that they might not even realize are occurring. And what I find is that there really are a great many good-hearted Christians who want to engage in this dialogue in a way that is non-threatening for them and non-threatening for the people they're speaking with. And what I've found is that when you give people those opportunities, they're very eager to take you up on them. And they find the experience is very rewarding and very healing to, just have the opportunity to speak with somebody who maybe has represented a demographic that has been historically unkind to them. So for LGBT folks, oftentimes Christians have been very unkind to them and have been very hurtful and abusive. And so for the opportunity to speak with Christians who won't treat them in that manner, I find that it's really healing for them. And then also for conservative Christians, I find that it seems to be very healing for them to be able to have honest conversations and dialogues with members of the LGBT community where they can hear and understand the perspectives that they've never before encountered. And at the same time be presented with people who won't be condescending or mean or rude to them for their spiritual beliefs. And so even though it seems like this is a conversation that people don't want to have, what I find is it's actually the conversation that people are really, really hungry to have. I think folks are looking for those safe environments. And so we've been really, really blessed, and we've been really, really encouraged by seeing the dialogues that take place in our meetings.
Awesome. And let me ask you, why do you think people feel they must fight for a love that is freely given by our Creator?
Well, I think that folks feel that this is a battle, and they often feel like they have to protect themselves. And so when that happens, I think sometimes Christians have been very guilty of trying to protect their own rights at the cost to somebody else. And so I think what happens then is that we victimize each other because we're trying so hard to protect ourselves. And I think that there's a way to protect ourselves, protect our own rights, without harming another person. And I think that's very true for both the LGBT community and for the church. And so I think the reason why people feel that way is because they have been, so hurt by either by members of the LGBT community or by members of the Christian community. They've been really, really hurt, and so there's not that willingness for people to express love to one another without like a no strings attached kind of a love. And
it's kind of hard because by the moment that you are born and brought up and you're constantly being told, God will only love you if you're this way, and it's a dialogue that's being said by Christians. I mean, I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and my grandmother, who is not with us anymore, it's been a while, would always try to program me to change me so that God would love me. And I know this goes across the board with all religions, and that's why I asked the question, why must we feel that we have to fight for this love, where God is all about love, and he loves us all unconditionally. So I don't understand why mankind, womankind, must feel they have to speak for God.
Right. I think, I completely agree with you, and I think your experience is similar to many people who are a part of the LGBT community. They've, been brought up with either within a religious community or with a relative or a friend who has, really been at times very hard on them. And I think that Christians have made the mistake of thinking that we can't love people who are different than or who are part of a group that we don't understand. And I think that has been a huge problem because you made a really good point. God doesn't say in order to love you, you must do A, B, and C. He says you are loved, and we don't change so that God loves us. He loves us, and that love should change who we are as a person. But I think oftentimes Christians will get that order switched around, and religious folks will think we have to change in order to be loved. But the truth is we're all beloved of God just as we are.
Right, exactly. And like Mark was saying, he was raised Jehovah's Witness. I was raised Christian. And,
oh, really?
The beliefs that Christians have, which is funny because everybody interprets the word differently. And, and I think in a lot of ways, that's not just, that interpretation leads to a different belief. So you'll have 5 different people with 5 different beliefs from that interpretation of what they've read or what they know about or what they've learned. Right. And it's the same thing in the LGBT community. like with words, for instance. Basically the situation is the interpretation of the word. Some people take offense to certain words in the LGBT community.
Right.
And, it's all about interpretation. And I think that's a lot of what causes a lot of conflict with a lot of the situations.
And one of the lines that I can't stand is, we love the sinner but not the sin.
Yes. That is a common one that really irks the LGBT community, and folks don't understand that. Oftentimes, actually, I find when I'm, teaching in a conservative Christian environment, if I'm, I'll go over phrases like that, like don't say these phrases, and I tell them why they're offensive, and people are very, genuinely shocked and surprised to hear that those are offensive phrases. I think when you're raised and indoctrinated in a certain way all your life, you're just not unfamiliar with perspectives outside of that, and I think that's one that Christians have been guilty of using, well-intentioned oftentimes. Christians have been guilty of using that and not understanding why that's so offensive.
Tell us a little bit about the team behind Loveboldly. I know the original contact I made was with Jason. Tell us a little bit about the team. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we have a great team. I feel like one of the luckiest leaders. I just love the folks that I get to work with Loveboldly. With on our leadership team, we've got folks from all different perspectives. We have myself and one other individual actually two other individuals who are straight, and then we have a couple folks who would identify as lesbian or gay, and so it's a interesting hodgepodge of sexual orientations, and we are persuaded across the board in different directions regarding different LGBT topics as well. And so we're sort of like a really good example of what it means to live with one another in tension of disagreement at times and in the confusion that surrounds topics of sexuality and faith, and just allow one another that opportunity to really explore for ourselves what we think and believe and how that causes us to act. I mean, we're all very convinced and persuaded that, kindness and goodness towards one another is primary. So we have a couple of folks on our board who are graduates from seminary. Justin is one of them. He's a published author. I have a friend who she has actually worked at both HRC, and she's also worked in Exodus-based ministries. So if you're familiar with either of those, they're on very divergent viewpoints. And so we represent a host of different perspectives, and all of us very dedicated not only to this discussion, but a lot of us are very passionate about other social justice issues as well. And so they're a fun group to work with. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We have a lot of fun, and just enjoy one another's company as we're doing this work.
Awesome. And since we're on the topic, explain to the listeners what your mission statement is.
Sure. Our mission statement is actually quite long, and so rather than read it all to you, I'll just encourage you to visit our website, www.loveboldly.net, and take a look at it there. Just click on Our Vision, and it'll give you the full description. But essentially, our mission is just to create environments in which people can befriend and reconcile with one another. And so, and not only with one another, but with themselves, their own sense of reconciling their faith and either sexual orientation or gender identity, and then also with God. And we do that at the divisive intersection of faith and sexual identity and gender identity.
I've always said that church is very bad business, because if I was the leader of a church, or leader of the whole religious organizations, I'd say, the more people we bring to our organization, the larger the group. Instead, they're dividing and pushing people away with their bigotry. That's my view. I like to see a world where it doesn't matter what sexual preference you have, whatever it is that you do, a world that it's all about love. That's what I'd like to see, and that's what I Jesus Christ came here on this earth to do, is to teach us about unconditional love.
And it sounds like Loveboldly is definitely on the right track with that.
And I like to be able
thank
to see
you.
that. I think we would have no wars. I think as a planet we would learn to respect the grounds we walk on. We would learn to love one another, and we would make greater strides in what we're doing now, which is destroying one another and just killing our planet.
Right. I agree.
So let me ask you this. What is the goal of your organization?
Well, I think our goal is just to help people with divergent viewpoints. So the groups that we work with the most are the traditionally minded Christians who have a conservative viewpoint of sexuality, and then also the LGBT community to just treat one another with that kind of love, unconditional love, kindness, respect, dignity, without feeling the need to sacrifice their persuasions, whether they be political persuasions or religious persuasions, or, it's just to help people work within those frameworks in a way that is intellectually and spiritually faithful and kind to one another.
And that's an important thing.
Yeah. I think the thing that sets Loveboldly apart from many organizations is that we just have a deep persuasion that agreement with one another, on whether that's on a political realm or a theological realm or a moral realm or a philosophical realm, that agreement in those areas is not essential for restoring that level of kindness and dignity and love to one another, and that there's ways to sit with one another and hear each other's perspectives and honor each other, and serve one another sacrificially, just the way that you do in all of your relationships with people that you care about, and to do that in such a way where we can focus a little bit more on what we can do together instead of against one another.
Yeah, and the way I look at this planet and the people inside our planet, we are in so much need of healing and love. I mean, it's just something, we're so broken and have been just totally belittled, not only by the political sector, I mean, just the whole, if you look at children nowadays, their self-esteem is very low, everything is just broken, and we need to heal. And I believe religion has the power to do that. I'm personally not religious. I'm very spiritual, and I believe that spirituality looks within the spirit, because we are spirits having an experience, and we need to stop looking so much at the outer and the materialistic things, but look at the inner things within us and heal. Major healing needs to be done. And I think organizations really need to look at that and help the world change and help actually the people in the world.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the things that really needs to happen is, I think, the Christian church, especially, and I just speak for them because I understand that perspective. I was raised in the church, and I think the Christian church needs to take a real look at the ways that they've been hurtful and harmful towards the LGBT community, and to take that seriously and to really work to make amends for that. There's no reason anyone should ever be spiritually, physically, emotionally abused in any way, and for the ways that the church has been guilty of doing that and furthering those kinds of abuses over the years, that breaks my heart, and I think that we need to make amends for it. And so, it's my hope that wherever people find themselves, whether they find themselves feeling inclined to organized religion or a sense of personal spirituality, or maybe no religious persuasion whatsoever, that they can find the healing that they need through those sort of reconciling relationships.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there are many in our community that have been abandoned by family, friends, and religion, constantly have been abused mentally, emotionally, and physically. What can you tell these people?
There's so much. I hardly know where to start. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is just the need to say that, if you've been a victim of that sort of hurt from a Christian or from a church, on behalf of somebody who represents that community, I'm deeply sorry for the ways that people within my community have mistreated you and hurt you and let you down and rejected you. And I hope that there's some way for us to make amends. I think it's important for people who are, feeling like outcasts, to know that, you're not forgotten and you're not abandoned. And, that I believe there is a God who does care for you and loves you desperately. And that, I think, is something that no Christian and no church can take away from you. And so I guess for people who find themselves in that situation where they've just been really, really victimized, especially in the name of religion, my heart just goes out to you. And please, if you need a place to feel safe and to feel loved and accepted, we would welcome you into our community. Look us up online and get connected with us, whether you are here in the area or elsewhere. We just enjoy friendships with folks who have just been really hurt, and we want to welcome you into our community, even if you've been cast out of your own community. And so yeah, I would just encourage people in that situation to remember that unfortunately sometimes the voices that they've heard and may still be hearing may be saying something about their worth, but that their worth is not determined by those voices. Their worth is determined by a God who gave up everything to come and be with them. So,
well, thank you so much for being on our show. Mention your website
Thank you
one
for
more
having
time.
me.
Thank you. And can you mention your website again so the listeners can look you up?
Yes, absolutely. Look us up on our website. It's www.loveboldly.net. Check us out on Facebook as well. If you type in facebook.com/2 Loveboldly, you'll find us, and we'd love to connect with you all. Or feel free to even just email me personally. The email address is loveboldlynow@gmail.com, and we'd love to connect with you all.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heidi,
for being on our show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure to be with you all.
It's been a real pleasure to have you.
In the trans news, NBC Washington, D.C. Council moved towards new birth certificates for transgender people. D.C. Council Judiciary Committee voted to ease birth certificate rules for people who want to change the name on their birth certificate for gender identity reasons. News 4, Tom Short reports. The D.C. Council is preparing to pass legislation that makes it easier for transgender people to obtain new birth certificates reflecting their change in sexual identity. The new law would ease a costly and bureaucratic system now in effect.
D.C.'s law, as it currently exists, makes it really hard for trans people to get their vital records in line with who they really are, said Andy Bowen, an activist with the D.C. Trans Coalition who helps fight discrimination in housing and jobs. The transgender community of about 100 people in D.C. faces tens of thousands of dollars in sex change operations and currently must advertise name changes in local publications for 3 weeks, Bowen said.
It makes it financially difficult for trans people, many of whom are low income and unemployed, and it is also just archaic and makes no sense, she says. The D.C. Council Judiciary Committee voted to wipe away a lot of those restrictions on sex identity changes, approving a proposal that would require only a certified statement from a medical doctor and eliminate the publicity and surgery requirements.
I'm proud that we are doing this during Pride Week. Councilmember Tommy Wells said, it's a time when we recognize equally among all district residents. Passed, the new law also would issue a new birth certificate rather than simply amending the old one.
The amended birth certificate are clear tip-offs for more discrimination, as if we don't deal with that enough.
And in Florida, the law is that basically you can request to have your previous birth certificate impounded, which means they will destroy it and they will issue you a new birth certificate.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight yet again. Next Friday we have Tim. Let me get the exact name and spelling of that. Just trying to deal with two different computers here. Yes, it's Tim Westmoreland, and he's the author of On Top. It's going to be a series, and it's going to be a great and interesting interview with Tim next Friday at 6:30 p.m., so don't miss that.
Yeah.
And we will have next Thursday our TV show without a guest, but we have some great information for you. You will not want to miss this show. It'll be Jessica and I. You get to see our faces for the whole hour and lots of information. Well, guys, stay safe. Don't drink and drive, and we'll see you next week. But I want to tell you a little something here.
We love you.
But remember to always love yourselves, too. Good night and have fun, but safe.
Good night.
And thank you, our guest,
Thank you, Heidi,
for being on our show.
Absolutely. Good night.